We are a culture obsessed with fitness, and despite our best efforts at the gym, many are left wanting more. Well, what is that more? Well, here to break it down for us is author Caroline Reynolds. Her new book, Spiritual Fitness, How to Live in Truth and Trust. Caroline, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's start off with your definition of spiritual fitness. What is that?
Okay, well, just like with physical fitness, a lot of people realize that they have to have an ongoing maintenance program. Spiritual fitness is exactly the same thing for our inner well-being, not for your physical well-being, but for your inner well-being. So how I define it is a very simple checklist that people can do. Just like when you go to the gym, you have a physical assessment. Here's some of the questions that the viewers could maybe check themselves out right now. First is, how loving and kind are you? And by that, I don't just mean to your nearest and dearest, but across the board. Rate yourself out of 10, and then you can kind of get an idea of your level of spiritual fitness. The next one is, how free are you? And by that, what I mean is, when you wake up in the morning, how much of your life is your own? Or how much are you living by somebody else's rules? Is your life only your own at weekends? Is your life only your own 2 weeks out of the year when you're on vacation? You know, we were actually all born free. As Rousseau said, man was born free, and everywhere he is in chains. So how much do we realize that life is ours to create?
Let me ask you this. A lot of times when we hear spiritual associated with anything, we think of being religious. But you say being religious and being spiritual are absolutely two different things.
Well, spirituality is contained in religion. How I define it is that religion is when you're having someone else's experience of the divine, and spirituality is when you're having your own. So ultimately, I personally believe there are as many versions of God as there are people, because we are each expressions of that divine life force. And so therefore, each one of us connects to that divine life force in our own particular way, even though there is one truth. And fundamentally, if you look behind all religions, I think they all agree that loving kindness is one of the most important aspects. So all religions have a spiritual foundation. I think where we get caught up is in the rules that we've made out of it, the kind of man-made rules, really.
Along that same vein, let me read a quote that you wrote,
right.
And if you can explain it a little further. The quote is, "We need not dogma but experiences, not judgment but understanding, not elitism but exclusiveness. We need to realize there are many versions of the divine as there are people, and we must find our own way of connecting to it."
Sure. I noticed that in the 20th century, we had a lot of civil rights. So we had, you know, rights for gay people, we had rights for women, we had rights for people of color. And that was when we were defining people by what was going on the outside. My sense is that as we move into the 21st century, what we're looking for is what I call spiritual rights. We're now killing each other, not for the color of our skin or what happens on the outside, but for what we believe on the inside. And understand that behind all religions, there is a common seeking. And if we all just focused on the experience that we have of the divine, rather than the dogma and the rules that go with it, I think that we'd all be able to live much more in peace if we really lived in accordance with the truth of the spirituality, rather than the letter of the law.
And living in peace probably has a little bit of something to do with another quote we took from your book, "Practice what you preach."
Right.
We've heard that before, but what does it mean in gaining spiritual fitness?
I have a saying in spiritual fitness, which people always seem to love, which is that the level of unhappiness in your life equals the size of the lie that you are living.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is that I believe that wherever you are not aligned with your truth, wherever you're not walking your talk, is where you are struggling. And I believe that stress happens when what is going on the outside of your life, when your actions don't go with your feelings. So again, once you are in alignment, once you're literally practicing what you preach, your actions match up with your words, your life actually flows much better, because it's an authentic reflection of who you are.
Relationships, a key part to our existence, no question about it. You have 3 laws for successful relationships. Go over those for us.
Okay, the first one is self-love. And the reason I say that is because people always tell you, oh, you can't have a relationship until you learn to love yourself. And I could never quite understand that, until one day I realized that I had higher standards for loving other people than I did for myself. I realized it was easier for me to take care of other people than it was to take care of myself. And also that until we believe that we are lovable, it's impossible for anyone else to make us feel good. For example, you're wearing this beautiful white shirt, but if I said to you, Heidi, you look beautiful in that black shirt, I could go on and on and on about how beautiful your black shirt looks. but you're just going to think I'm insane at the end of the day because you don't believe it in the first place. And I think that often explains why, you know, we can have people that can see the best in us, but if we don't see it ourselves, we'll often dismiss those people in relationships, and we'll go towards the people that maybe don't treat us so well because secretly we agree with what they think about us. So if we want people to love us, the best of us, we have to start believing it first ourselves. And the second two laws, briefly, are respect.
Yes.
I think it's really important. I have a quote at the beginning of my chapter on relationships, that love is not looking into each other's eyes, but looking together in the same direction. So I think it's very important for us to realize that relationships have a higher purpose. In fact, people with successful relationships always say that they feel that they have a shared sense of purpose, or at least they support one another's purpose. And I think we have to realize that we're all together on a mutual journey of self-discovery. And finally, freedom. I give an illustration of this when I give my talks and workshops. Something happens when we go into a relationship. We can be a good friend with somebody. For example, you can have a friend that you're attracted to, arrange to go out for dinner with them, and say, you know, we'll meet next week, and at the last minute, the friend cancels. That's okay, no big deal. Then some weeks later, maybe you get together with that friend, you enter into what I call a relationship with a capital R. You know, you've entered into a sexual romantic relationship with that person. And it's like the next day you wake up and you've gone insane and you've downloaded this whole new set of rules and suddenly you're like a different person. So the same situation with the same person, you can say, let's go out for dinner, and they cancel. And the next thing you're saying is, what do you mean you don't want to go out for dinner? Don't you love me anymore? Right. Maybe we should go for therapy. You know, it's like, what's wrong?
We've changed our whole mechanism in a split second.
Because
like that.
We have this belief that once sex gets involved, that relationship equals ownership. And it really isn't. If anything, we should allow people more freedom to express themselves and cherish who they are and give them the support and the opportunity to feel safe to explore and express more of who they are.
You have enlightened us today.
Thank
Your book
you.
is Spiritual Fitness, How to Live in Truth and Trust. Thank you, Caroline Reynolds. You can read more passages of her book on our website. That's abcnewsnow.com. Click on the GMA Now link. I'm Heidi Jones, and you're watching Good Morning America Now.
High school can be a scary place.
Students need support.
You can hand out condoms tomorrow. It's not like they're going to use them.
Positive role models.